Looking to part ways with complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping? Then give your business the edge it needs with USPS Ground Advantage shipping from the United States Postal Service. Keep everything simple with clear, upfront pricing and no unexpected surcharges. Keep things affordable with some of the lowest prices out there. And keep it all reliable with on-time ground shipments. It's time to turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable. This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2723, When Wealth Isn't Real, by Nick Maggiulli of dollarsandData.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Welcome back to Optimal Finance Daily, where every day I read and offer commentary on some of the best personal finance blogs on the web in about 10 minutes or less. So with that, let's get right to our next article as we optimize your life. When Wealth Isn't Real, by Nick Maggiulli of dollarsandData.com. One of the biggest stories in finance over the past few years concerns Bill Hwang, the founder of Archegos Capital, who lost a record $20 billion in the span of 2 days. How did he do it? Leverage and lots of it. Hwang had levered up about 5x through an assortment of swap contracts on a handful of individual stocks. The payoffs on these swaps were relatively simple. If Hwang's stocks were up on the day, his banking partners paid him cash, and if they were down on the day, he paid them cash. From the beginning of 2021 through mid-March, this strategy worked wonders for him. But then, after experiencing such a severe decline across his portfolio, Hwang had to come up with significant amounts of cash to pay his banking partners. Unfortunately, he didn't have it. As a result, some of his banks took swift action and began liquidating his positions, causing further losses. As the liquidations mounted, Archegos entered a death spiral. Within 2 days, Hwang's fund had lost $20 billion. While it would be easy for me to write a post criticizing Hwang for using too much leverage, that idea isn't particularly interesting to me, nor particularly helpful to you. Not only have I written about this topic before, but individual investors like you and I aren't allowed to borrow at these levels anyway. Warning against the use of 5x leverage would be like warning against the dangers of getting injured while playing in the NFL. It is a risk, but not one that 99.9% of people have to worry about. But what is intriguing about this story is what it illustrates about how we think about wealth. Based on what I've read, Hwang now holds the record for the fastest loss of wealth in history. Mark Zuckerberg once lost $16 billion in a single day after Facebook shares plunged by 19% in July of 2018. But that was an unrealized loss, or on paper only. Since Zuckerberg didn't sell his shares and Facebook's share price is now 50% higher than it was before the decline, the loss doesn't really count. But I don't think Hwang's loss of $20 billion counts either. Because if Hwang had tried to get out of his positions in the days before they crashed, I doubt he would have been left with $20 billion or anywhere near that anyways. You can say the same thing about ultra-billionaires who have most of their wealth in one or a few assets. For example, Elon Musk currently owns over $100 billion worth of Tesla stock. If he decided to liquidate all of it, how much of that $100 billion do you think he could actually realize? I have no clue, but I doubt he gets away with more than $50 billion of it. In the process of selling his shares, Tesla's stock price would go into free fall. Not only would there be not enough buyers to support the price, but once investors found out that Musk was selling, many of them would lose confidence in the stock as well. Of course, Musk would never do such a ridiculous thing, but it illustrates how large sums of wealth are illusionary in the first place. So when we talk about Bill Hwang's $20 billion loss, we aren't really talking about the destruction of $20 billion in realized dollars. It's not like Hwang took $20 billion in cash and built a position up over time that eventually went up in flames. In fact, it's the opposite. He took a small amount of money and grew it very quickly by using increasing amounts of leverage. This wealth never really existed anywhere besides on paper. But isn't most wealth on paper though? Well, yes, but most people can realize that wealth. For example, if I decided to sell every asset I own tomorrow, I would be able to realize all of it at the market price without taking any significant haircut. Since I own small amounts of highly liquid assets, my choice to sell would have no material impact on the market price. This is probably true for 99.9% of people. However, for those that have larger amounts of wealth, especially in illiquid assets, that's when things become distorted. Yes, their wealth can be measured on paper, but they don't really know how much they have until they sell. History is filled with examples of ultra-rich individuals who learned this lesson the hard way. That doesn't mean that Hwang's loss at Archegos is unimportant, but that it's probably less extraordinary than it initially appeared. Because in Hwang's case, very little of substance was actually lost. It's not like 20 billion of physical capital was destroyed or economic activity was reduced by 20 billion. No, his inflated assets were deflated and his true loss was much smaller. It would be like if you owned an aircraft leasing company with 10 Boeing 747s listed on your balance sheet at 400 million apiece, or 4 billion in total. However, after COVID-19 hit, you discovered two things. One, your airplanes are now worth only 300 million apiece. And two, you had miscounted and actually only own 9 Boeing 747s after all. Now your listed assets are worth 2.7 billion, or 300 million times 9 planes, down from 4 billion. Did you just experience a $1.3 billion loss? No, you experienced a $900 million loss. Since one of your planes never existed in the first place, that additional 400 million was never really lost. This is kind of like what happened to Hwang and Archegos, where the value of their individual positions were the equivalent of that extra non-existent airplane. Yes, this analogy isn't exactly correct, but it gets at the underlying idea. In some cases, wealth isn't what it seems. We can see it, we can count it, we can write it down on a piece of paper, but as soon as we go to touch it, it disappears, like a financial hologram, like something that never truly existed. While you may never experience any such thing during your lifetime, there will be people who you know who will. They will overvalue their assets. They'll believe their home or business or other asset are worth more than they really are. They'll make financial decisions based on this information too. But one day, they may realize the uncomfortable truth. Not all wealth is real. You just listened to the post titled, "When Wealth Isn't Real" by Nick Maggiulli of dollars-and-data.com. And I'll be right back with my commentary. Looking to part ways with complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping? Then give your business the edge it needs with USPS Ground Advantage shipping from the United States Postal Service. Keep everything simple with clear, upfront pricing and no unexpected surcharges. Keep things affordable with some of the lowest prices out there. And keep it all reliable with on-time ground shipments. It's time to turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable. If you've been using Mint to manage your finances, I've got some bad news. Mint is shutting down. But now for the good news. There's a better alternative. Our sponsor, Monarch Money. Mint users are turning to Monarch Money and loving it. Maybe you're saving for a down payment, a wedding, a dream vacation, your kids' college? I've found that Monarch makes it so easy to help you reach your financial goals, whatever they are. I definitely wouldn't be able to allocate my finances or plan as clearly without help from Monarch. In fact, Monarch is the top-rated all-in-one personal finance app. It gives you a comprehensive view of all of your accounts, investments, transactions, and more. Create custom budgets, set goals, and collaborate with your partner. And now get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/OFD. After trying out Monarch for myself, I understand why it's the top-rated personal finance app. And right now, get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/OFD. That's monarchmoney.com/OFD for your extended 30-day free trial. This article made me think about how we value our assets. Think about it. How often do we inflate the value of our homes, our cars, or even our prized possessions? We see that Zestimate on Zillow or that Kelley Blue Book value, and suddenly we're convinced that it's cold, hard cash in our hands. But the truth is, those numbers are just estimates, and they don't always reflect what we could actually get if we tried to sell. In hot real estate markets, it's easy to get caught up in the frenzy and think our homes are worth way more than they actually are. But when it comes time to sell, we might be in for a rude awakening. I have a neighbor that tracks all the expenses of improvements he's making to his home. In his mind, if he spends $2,000 on new tile, that increases the value of his home by $2,000. But it doesn't really work like that. And it's not just homes. Think about all the stuff we accumulate over the years: furniture, gadgets, collectibles. We assign sentimental value to those things, convincing ourselves they're worth more than they really are. But when push comes to shove, we might find that no one else sees them the same way we do. So while this article focuses on the high stakes world of finance, it's also a wake-up call for us regular folks to take a hard look at our own assets and make sure we're not overvaluing them. After all, it's better to be pleasantly surprised than bitterly disappointed when it comes time to cash in. And that's another edition of Optimal Finance Daily. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back with you tomorrow for another post. So I'll see you there where your optimal life awaits.